Delegate Lingamfelter, thanks for joining us today. Happy Valentine's Day to you and your family.
Well, thank you so much. Down here in Richmond, my wife sent me a nice card, and I was able to get her a nice set of flowers, so we're enjoying our day, but 90 miles apart.
Well, I'm in the same situation, so I feel your pain, but glad that you guys are able to reach out to each other as you try to get through this session. For those of our listeners that might not be aware, Republican Delegate Scott Lingamfelter, also a candidate for the Republican nomination for lieutenant governor. That nominating process is going to be decided in a Republican convention, a caucus, if you will, that'll be held on May 18th in Richmond. If you want to become a delegate or get involved, there's a process you've got to go through. Just go to the Republican Party of Virginia, rpv.com. There'll be some info there. I'm sorry, rpv.org. How could I get that wrong? rpv.org, and there'll be some info there if you want to get involved. This is not a primary. This is a convention. We keep saying it over and over because you wouldn't believe the number of people that have emailed me saying, when's the primary? It's not. It's a convention. Anyway, Delegate, great to have you with us. Let's go straight to the session in Richmond right now. Any chance that transportation reform or bill or something gets revived in the final days here?
Well, I think revived probably isn't the right word. Both bills, both the Senate and the House bills, are now in conference. That took place yesterday, and so now conferees will be appointed, and those conferees will try to hammer out some sort of compromise that people can support. As you may know, John, I did not vote for the governor's plan. I don't think that raising taxes right now in a very fragile economy, I mean, you don't have to be as wise as a tree full of owls to realize that when unemployment is ticking up, we have a weak economy, and we need to be very, very careful about making it worse.
Delegate, though, wouldn't you agree with me on the fact that if we don't solve the transportation crisis in this state, and we all know it's going to take billions of dollars, that the traffic gridlock that we've got that is costing people hours and hours and hours and billions of dollars of time, both in Northern Virginia and the Hampton Roads area, eventually this is going to strangle our economy in Virginia if we don't fix it. So if not the governor's plan, what plan?
Exactly the point. I mean, no one disagrees with the premise of the point you just made. Transportation infrastructure is absolutely key in attracting the right kind of businesses to Virginia. If you look at the Panama Canal widening in 2015, that's going to have a huge impact on Hampton Roads. It's going to give us a tremendous opportunity to grow businesses in Virginia because many of those deep-hauled vessels that will now be able to go through the Panama Canal will do their port of call in Hampton Roads, which is a natural deep-water port. So it's a perfect match made in heaven in a sense. It's not the objective that's at debate, John. It is the how. How are you going to do it? You know, for those of us who believe that taxpayer money should be used against the priorities of the taxpayers, we believe that more money from the general fund should go into transportation. Right now, basically, transportation is funded through several things, but mostly the gas tax. We believe that the general fund money, income tax, sales tax, corporate tax, all those different taxes that go into the general fund should also be available for transportation. Liberals don't like that because they like to cordon off that general fund, John, so that they can spend it on their big social programs that they love. We believe the general fund should also be used to support the core interests of the Commonwealth as well. And so we are going to be continuing to press forward with that. And that's certainly my strong position. I think there's some other things that we can do as well in terms of tax reform that make just a whole lot of sense. But there's no question about it, John. The Democrats are foursquare against any money coming out of the general fund, despite the fact that it's not unprecedented. We've been doing it for years. What we're saying is we need to increase it and match it up with this core function of government, which is to provide solid transportation infrastructure that is going to help build this economy.
Okay, well, there's no question we have to do something, and whether it's taking from a lockbox tax or taking from the general fund or cutting spending somewhere else, so we've got to improve these roads. So it seems like you've got an approach that's viable. It is Common Sense News Time coming up on 7/19. This is the John Frederick Show. We're visiting with the delegate Scott Lingamfelter. He's a Republican from the 31st District in Virginia. He's also a Republican candidate for the nomination for lieutenant governor. Delegate, let's get to politics for a minute. You were absolutely skewered by some conservative bloggers, I thought very unfairly, quite frankly, so I'm going to come out straight with that. When you responded as a veteran who has served this country to former Congressman Dr. Ron Paul's tweet about the murder now, the alleged murder of the number one sniper that we had. And you responded to that tweet that we thought was in very poor taste when Dr. Paul tweeted out, if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. This was an American hero that put his life on the line every day. And you responded to that, which I thought was a sobering and response, and then just got absolutely raked over the coals by some of these conservative bloggers. What do you make of this whole thing?
Well, first of all, if you've been in combat, as I have, if you've had to deal with the tragic death of comrades on the battlefield, which I have, if you've had to present a flag and have to say those mournful words on behalf of a grateful nation to a wife, as I have, when people dance on the grave of a brave American, they're going to hear from me. And I make no apologies about that. John, when you aspire to leadership, you have to be willing to speak out. You don't have the luxury of sitting on the sidelines and twiddling your thumbs. And sometimes, people don't like that. Well, in Scott Lingamfelter, if he's your lieutenant governor, you're going to have someone who's going to be unashamed to stand up for veterans. And you're going to have someone who's going to speak his mind, even when people don't agree. I don't think this is a time for sunshine patriots. I think it's time to stand up and to speak clearly when things are said that need to be addressed. Now, that said, my focus is that of an authentic conservative. I mean, I'm an A-plus NRA, 100% American Conservative Union, 100% Virginia Family Foundation, 100% National Federation of Independent Businesses. My conservative credentials are not at stake. Some people were upset with me. They really respect Dr. Paul. That's fine. But when things are said of this nature, then I'm compelled to speak. That said, my focus right now is how do we get Virginia's economy moving? How do we create the environment? By the way, if you run into a politician who says they create jobs, John, get a bucket of cold water and pour it on them. Politicians don't create jobs. They can affect the environment within which people can be prosperous. And so my vision for Virginia is one that truly focuses on constitutional freedoms, the prosperity of families, and the vibrancy of small businesses. And if we would do those three things, Constitution, families, and small businesses, Virginia will be a great place. That's my focus now. It's not on this incident. I'm glad that Mr. Paul walked it back a little bit when he, quote, clarified his remarks, unquote. That's fine. As far as I'm concerned, it's time to move on. If the bloggers want to beat me up, I'm a big boy. Beat me up.
What do you have Delegate Lingamfelter to say directly to Ron Paul backers that are most likely going to show up at the convention? You want their vote, obviously. Some of them are upset with you. What would you say right now to them directly?
What I would say is focus on the conservative principles that made our party great. The high water mark of our party, John, was the Reagan era. Ronald Reagan was a remarkable man. He is my example. He is the example that I am following. Ron Paul has done many good things for the Republican Party. Chief among them, and my very favorite thing, is audit the Fed. That said, I don't think this is about personalities. It's about principles. And I would hope that all the delegates that come to the convention say, okay, who is that authentic conservative? Who is that person who has the true leadership abilities, who has been leading for decades, who has the record, not simply a brochure, and who can win as a conservative in a state, quite frankly, that's become more swing in recent years. I've won 7 elections, John, in Northern Virginia in a swing district in Prince William and Fauquier County, and I've done it by double-digit margins every time. Why? Because I never abandoned my conservative principles. And I think that's the ultimate test. Leadership, authentic conservatism, a person with a record, not simply a brochure, and a winning record over time. And I think that if people look at Scott Lingamfelter, they'll see a man who would tell them the truth, who won't cut corners. I think that's pretty clear, who will speak his mind and be honest, even when people don't always agree, and will lead. And I think that's the kind of leaders we need. That's the kind of leader Reagan was. That's the kind of leader I aspire to be. It's not about personalities. It's about principles.
Common Sense News Time coming up on, 7:25 here on the John Frederick Show. Steve Ray, the editorial director, along with John this morning, and we're speaking to Delegate Scott Lingamfelter from the 31st District, and a number of robocalls going out across the state for events for various lieutenant governor nominees. Do you have an event coming up in the Prince William County area here in the next couple of days, sir?
We have several events that are coming up in the course of the next several days. I'm not at liberty to speak to all of them. We are proscribed, at least those of us who are elected officials, from doing any fundraising during the time that we are in office. So I don't really want to do the details there because I think it kind of crosses the line, so I won't do that.
I actually knew that. I just wanted to get it out because my mom thanked you for the robocall she got last night about the event coming up. So not to be lighthearted about it, but again, those folks who are holding current office until the end of this short session is over, they are not allowed to raise funds directly. So Delegate Lingamfelter is quite correct in how he made the call on that. I would ask you, do you have any pieces of legislation left to push through that you have personally sponsored here before we get to the end of this short session in, I guess, about 10 or 8 working days?
Well, actually, the Bonita bill is before the Senate today, and we're going to be out working very hard to get that passed. It's the Small Farmers Property Rights Bill, a modification of the Right to Farm Act that helps small farmers do their job without being worried about the heavy hand of government coming in and telling them they can't sell birdhouses or have pumpkin carving contests or have a birthday party for friends at their farm. I know it sounds absurd. We've covered this on your show before, but we're going to get that done. Look, Scott Lingamfelter is solidly behind property rights, and if anybody, regardless of where they are in terms of supporting this political person or that political person, whether it's people who really truly respect Ron Paul or people who truly respect Ronald Reagan, to me it doesn't matter. We ought to all be galvanized to this fundamental property rights issue, and that's why I have taken the leadership on it. I'm the only one, quite frankly, in the race for lieutenant governor that's done that, and I am focused keenly on getting that passed, and we're going to work it very hard today.
Delegate Lingamfelter, we got about just over a little bit over a minute. In the middle of March, Lieutenant Governor Bill Bolling is going to make an announcement about what he plans to do. Now, you have personally served with the Lieutenant Governor in Richmond for a long time. I know that you guys have been friends. Many think that Bill is going to run as an independent and make that announcement for governor in the middle of March. Right now on the air, what would you say to Lieutenant Governor Bill Bolling as he considers his race as an independent candidate for governor?
Well, from my perspective as a Republican, I hope that he does not run as an independent. I know that there are some hard feelings. I mean, their personalities involved between Lieutenant Governor and the Attorney General. I think we've got to really focus on what's best for Virginia. And what's not best for Virginia is Terry McAuliffe as governor. That would be an unmitigated disaster, and it would make it extremely difficult for the Republican House and the very narrowly divided Republican Senate to do its work on behalf of people who, support the Constitution, want to see vibrant families, want to see prosperous small businesses. The very vision that Scott Lingamfelter is trying to craft for Virginia. If you think that vision is important, you don't want Terry McAuliffe and the Democrats in charge of the top three offices in Virginia. That would be lunacy. So I would hope that we can all galvanize behind our nominees and work very, very hard to be successful in November, because at the end of the day, it's the party of Reagan, not the party of President Obama, that will advance Virginia.
Virginia Delegate Scott Lingamfelter from the 31st District, we thank you so much for the time as always, and give out that website that you can do.
Yes, it's www.scott4VA, Scott4Virginia. That's a VA.com. And come on out and click on You Want to Be a Delegate. You can do that.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir, and good luck on the Bonita bill today. I know that's important not only to you, but to the residents of the Commonwealth as well. Have a great day. Thanks again.
Thanks so much, guys. Happy Valentine's.
You too.
Thank you.